Hello everyone, my name's Lachlan and today we're going to cook some super easy prawn sandwiches. So this is a recipe that we can really quickly put together, which is fantastic. I've just been to the market and I've grabbed some really nice fresh tiger prawns. So we'll get those cooking very shortly. I've also got some bread here. I've taken the easy option today. I've gone to the supermarket and purchased just a soft white bread basically. The recipe attached to this though, we've got a recipe for some really nice soft white bread as well, if you want to go to that extra effort of making it yourself. And then I also have some butter, which we'll pop in with the prawns when we cook them, a couple of eschalots, some yuzu juice, some tarragon, some mayonnaise. I'm using the Kewpie style Japanese mayo today, but even if you have the standard mayonnaise in your fridge at home, that will work perfectly fine. Some lime, we'll have both the juice and zest today, and also some celery. So all ingredients that you may have lying around the kitchen at home. Even if you don't have the exact ingredients, you can easily substitute these as well. So this is everything. Let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is I'm actually using my vac sealing drawer today and I'm going to cook these prawns nice and slow. You don't have to vacuum seal them if you don't have this, you can just steam them straight away. So what I need to do is grab my prawns. I still have the tail, so simply squeeze that and it pops off. And I'm going to pop in all of these prawns into this bag. Once this is all done, I'll then get my butter and pop that in. Okay, so all the prawns are in the bag now. I've taken off all the tails. You can see I've got that bowl there. These can be used if you want to make a fish stock or a quick, you can even make a bouillabaisse if you have other seafood trimmings lying around at home. Even freeze them because a seafood bisque every so often is good as well. So try not to waste them if you can. I'm now just going to pop a pinch of salt into the bag. Not too much because, you know, these are from salt water. And some butter, about a tablespoon or so. So that goes in like so. Now, I'm going to head over to the vac sealing drawer. I'll vacuum seal this and then I'll place it into the steam oven. I'm going to steam these at 65 degrees for about 15 minutes. So that's cooking these at a really low temperature, which is different to how you may normally do it. But it basically means that if you buy a slightly bigger prawn to me or a slightly smaller prawn, this will give us a consistency in our cooking time and means it's very difficult to overcook the product. So I'm very confident that all of you at home will have fantastically cooked prawns and therefore a really tasty sandwich. Okay, so our prawns are fully vacuum sealed now. You can see I've got no more air in this as well. So also, for your own benefit of knowing this, it's a great way to store products as well. So these will last in the fridge for a good week, maybe even longer, depending on how long they were prior to you purchasing them, because there's no more air in contact with the food. So it is a really great way to store your products as well. I vacuum sealed these prawns on setting 3, which is the maximum setting, and that means there's no air at all in this bag. So I'm just sort of squeezing them out now so it's relatively flat so I get a consistent cooking time. So that is like so. I'm going to place this into our steam oven, as I said, 65 degrees for 15 minutes. Okay, so those prawns are in cooking away. Whilst that's happening, I'm going to basically compile the rest of the filling. So I've got some celery here. I may not need this entire stick, maybe 2/3 or so, but I'll see how I go. Some eschalot, I'll dice these two nice and fine. I've got some tarragon here, which I'll also cut up just as fine, so these will all mix together really nice. Once I have these sort of drier ingredients mixed together, I'll then add all the wet stuff like the mayonnaise, the juice and all that sort of stuff. So I'll simply just dice this celery and take your time when you're dicing this to get as clean a cut as you like. Celery is a bit of a tricky one to cut because the shape is, as we know, it's quite unique. So I like to get this into sticks first, as close to uniform as possible. And then once you've got the sticks, the rest is quite easy. You just then go along the opposite way and cut it into little squares. So this is something that you don't need to rush because our prawns are at least 15 minutes away. So take your time, make the most of this 15 minutes and get it really nicely done, because that'll also mean your sandwich looks good, but also the flavors will distribute better and it will taste better also. So I'll chop away here. Once it's all chopped, we'll come back and we can compile these sandwiches. Okay, so everything here is now nicely diced. I've got my celery, eschalot and my tarragon in there. So you can see I've got really nice little squares or brunoise as well. So that's all put together. I'm now going to zest my lime and juice half of it as well. I'll keep the other half aside. When we add the prawns, we'll have a taste, see how it's looking. The Kewpie mayo, I'll add straight away as well, about 2 to 3 tablespoons or so. Although if you like it thicker, add some more. This is things that you can really adjust according to your personal taste. Approximately 2 tablespoons of yuzu juice. Now yuzu juice you'll be able to buy from most Asian grocers or specialty food stores, and it sort of tastes a cross between like a mandarin and a lime, I guess is a good way to describe it. If you can get it, it is amazing. It's one of the best things to have around, and it comes in a glass bottle normally, which you can keep in the fridge, and it has a pretty good shelf life. So I'll mix these up first, and it will be a pretty wet looking mixture at this point. And you want to, I mean, it is about flavour, but a good distribution of ingredients as well in how it looks is also important from a visual point of view. So mix those together. I'll now zest my lime. So I'm using a microplane to zest this, but any zester will work. And just be careful not to get too much of the white stuff. So just one stroke over each area is the way to go. And then we'll juice it. So I'm just going to give this a quick roll on the bench just to get a bit more juice out of it. Cut this in half carefully. When you roll it, just cut it carefully because all the juice can explode out of the lime. And then, as I said, I'll just do half for now. Give this a really, really good squeeze. This half I'll keep. When I add the prawns, we'll have a taste and see how it's going. But that at the moment is all we can do. The prawns are approximately 5 minutes away. When they come out, we'll need to drain off the excess butter and any of the cooking juices, and also just let them cool down ever so slightly before we add them to this as well. So we probably still are 10 to 15 minutes or so away from compiling these sandwiches. However, in the meantime, grab your bread slices, or if you've baked a loaf, slice it first, and a biscuit cutter. Now when I select the cutter, now you can do this in any shape that you like. The rounds are quite nice because there's no crust, it looks quite nice on a platter or something. Make sure you pick a cutter if you're going to do this that you can get 2 cuts out of each slice of bread. If I go one size up from what I have here, I'll only be able to cut one in the middle, and then there's even more wastage. So get nice and close to the crust, cut down, push that out, do the same here. And that is both bits of bread for our sandwich. These bits here, I'm actually going to pop into our warming drawer. I'll pop these in overnight on a low setting to dehydrate. And then tomorrow I'll just blitz them in a food processor. And then I've got breadcrumbs in the pantry for any occasion where I need them. So I'll get all this bread cut. Once the prawns are cooked, we'll come back and we're almost at the end. Okay, so the prawns have just finished cooking. You can see here also, I've just got a clean chucks cloth, just wet it, and I've got my bits of bread cut underneath. This will just stop them drying out for the time being. I'm going to grab out my prawns, and you can see they're really nicely cooked, and we've also got that butter that's melted throughout as well. So what I'd like to do first is cut this bag. And if you can, it can be a little bit tricky. In fact, I'm just going to pop it all into the bowl. Sometimes, depending on the prawn, you'll get a lot of juice from them, which is worth keeping. But we do want to separate the prawns from the juice at this point, because when it cools down, you get really big chunks of set butter, which doesn't give you the nicest mouthfeel. So the butter has done its job in terms of cooking the prawns and getting us that flavour. This butter now though, if you keep it, I would freeze it just so it stays good, doesn't go off. But if you're cooking a piece of fish or something, use this butter because you get that really nice flavour from the prawns, or making, as I said before, a bisque or anything like that. that butter there is really quite tasty. So keep that aside somewhere. I'm now just going to pop these prawns into the fridge for about 10 minutes, I reckon. Let these cool down slightly before I cut them. I'll then add them to this mix and we can build the sandwich. So we're 2 steps away and then we have a really nice lunch or afternoon tea or something like that to share around. Okay, so I'm just finalizing buttering these little sandwiches off. Butter is quite important as it creates a bit of a layer on the bread, and that actually protects the bread from going soggy because this will be a reasonably wet mixture. So whilst butter isn't essential, I'd recommend that you do put a thin layer on all of them and then just sandwich them together like so, so that they are ready to go. In fact, I'll just pop these all over to the side. My prawns are now nicely cooled down. So all we have to do is roughly, but in a small way, just chop these up. And you want it nice and small, so that way the mixture mixes together really easy and it will sit together as well. If there's a massive chunk of prawn, what can happen is you take a bite and half the prawn exits the sandwich, which is not ideal. So I'll work away and chop these up. We'll add them to the bowl with all the other mix, and then we can build these sandwiches and then our job is done. Okay, so the prawns are all chopped. I'm now going to pick these up and all into the bowl. And then just stir these around. Try not to throw it on the bench like I just did. So you want to mix this together really nicely. This will need a pinch of salt. Just go a little bit because we did add salt when we cooked them as well. And now grab a spoon so we can have a taste, just to check the seasoning. It's pretty good. We need a little bit more salt actually. And I'm also going to get some of that lime I had left over, squeeze that in, give that another stir around, and that is our mix done. So now all we need to do is spoon this onto our bread. So I'll lay it out. I'll just use this spatula here. That's fine. And you don't want too much because then it's very difficult to eat. But spoon those on. Like so. Pop your lid on and that is your sandwich. So I'll continue on here until I've got a nice plate done up, and that's the prawn sandwiches. Alrighty, so here we go. The sandwiches are all done. I'm just going to top each one now with a little blob of wasabi. Really like that extra kick. This is, of course, just an extra touch that you don't have to do, but I love the heat, so you can garnish these with really whatever you like. And this is the sandwiches done. So if you like this recipe, you can head to mieleexperience.com.au or mieleexperience.co.nz. Thank you for watching. I know this is one that you can really nail. It's quick and it's easy. So have a great weekend and I'll see you next time.